The moment his father took his final breath, his wife slid divorce papers across the hospital table. No tears, no hesitation, just a cold, calculated signature waiting for him. Marcus didn't understand what hurt more, losing the only man who ever truly loved him, or realizing the woman he built his life around had been waiting for this exact moment. And the worst part, she smiled, before we go further, tell me in the comments where you're watching from today. And if you enjoy powerful, emotional stories like this, don't forget to subscribe to Crown Tales. You don't want to miss what happens next. Marcus Kane had always been the kind of man people overlooked. Quiet, reserved, simple. To the outside world, he was just another struggling middle-class worker in the city. Or man who wore the same watch for years, drove an old car that coughed every morning, and worked long hours just to make ends meet. But what people didn't know was that Marcus had spent his entire life running from a shadow. His father, Edward Kane, a name Marcus avoided, a name he buried, a name that came with too many unanswered questions. Growing up, Marcus never really understood why his father was always distant. Edward wasn't cruel, just absent, emotionally unreachable, always working, always traveling, always disappearing for days without explanation. Then one day, he disappeared for good. No goodbye, no explanation, no trace. Marcus was only 17. From that moment, Marcus learned to survive alone. No wealth, no inheritance, no support, just silence. Years later, Marcus built a life from nothing. He met Vanessa, beautiful, smart, ambitious. She walked into his life like light breaking through darkness. At least, that's what he believed. Marcus, you deserve more than this life, Vanessa would often say, looking around their modest apartment with quiet dissatisfaction. Marcus would smile softly. I'm trying, Vanessa. I'm doing everything I can. But Vanessa wasn't patient. She wanted more, faster, bigger house, luxury life, status, things Marcus simply couldn't give her, not yet. Still, he loved her deeply, so deeply that when she said yes to his proposal, he felt like maybe, just maybe, everything he went through had led him to something good. They got married in a small ceremony. No family from Marcus's side, because there was no one left. Years passed, and slowly something began to change. Vanessa became colder, distant, critical. Every small failure Marcus made became a weapon in her hands. You're still driving that old car? Do you know how embarrassing that is? Other men your age are building empires, Marcus. What are you doing? Those words cut deeper than she knew. Or maybe she knew exactly what she was doing. Marcus worked harder, took extra shifts, lost sleep, ignored his own health, trying to become the man Vanessa wanted, but it was never enough. It was never enough. Then one night, everything changed. Marcus got a call, unknown number, late, urgent. He almost didn't answer. Hello, a calm voice replied. Is this Marcus Kane? Yes. Who is this? There was a pause. Then, I'm calling regarding your father. Marcus froze. His heart stopped. For years, he had imagined this moment. Anger, questions, pain. But what came next? Awe was something he never expected. He's in the hospital, the voice continued. He doesn't have much time. Marcus didn't speak. He couldn't. The man who abandoned him, the man he told himself he no longer cared about, was dying. Vanessa stood in the doorway watching him. "Who was that?" she asked. Marcus swallowed. "My father, he's dying." Vanessa's expression didn't soften. Instead, something else flickered in her eyes, something Marcus couldn't quite understand. The next morning, they went to the hospital. The air inside felt heavy, cold, unforgiving. Marcus walked down the long hallway, his chest tightening with every step, until he saw him, Edward Kane, weak, pale, connected to machines, barely recognizable. Marcus stood still. For a moment, he considered walking away, but something inside him pulled him forward. Slowly, carefully, he stepped closer to the bed. Edward opened his eyes, and when he saw Marcus, something changed. Relief, regret, emotion, all at once. "You came," Edward whispered. Marcus clenched his fists. "I almost didn't." Silence filled the room, heavy, uncomfortable, years of unanswered questions hanging between them. "Why?" Marcus finally asked, his voice shaking. "Why did you leave me?" Edward closed his eyes. Tears slipped down his face. "I didn't leave you." "Because I wanted to." Marcus frowned. "What does that even mean?" Edward struggled to breathe. "There are things you don't know, things I couldn't tell you. To protect you." Marcus felt anger rising. "Protect me? By disappearing? By leaving me with nothing?" Edward looked at him with pain. "I left you everything." Marcus laughed bitterly. "Everything? I had nothing. I built my life from scratch." Edward shook his head weakly. "No, you didn't understand." Before Marcus could respond, the door opened. A man in a suit stepped inside. Professional, calm, observant. "Mr. Kane," he said, nodding respectfully, "I believe it's time." Marcus turned. "Time for what?" The man stepped forward, holding a sealed envelope. "My name is Richard Hale. I'm your father's legal representative." Vanessa, standing quietly in the corner, suddenly straightened. Her attention sharpened. Her eyes locked onto the envelope. Edward looked at Marcus one last time. His voice barely a whisper. "Everything is in there." Marcus hesitated. Then slowly he reached out and took the envelope. It felt heavier than it should. And then the machines began to beep rapidly, loudly. Doctors rushed in. Nurses followed. Chaos filled the room. "Sir, you need to step back." Marcus stumbled backward, his heart racing. "Dad!" But it was too late. The sound, that long, continuous tone, echoed through the room. Edward Kane was gone. Marcus stood frozen, the envelope still in his hand, his father's last words repeating in his mind. "Everything is in there." Vanessa slowly walked up beside him. She glanced at the envelope, then at Marcus, and then, without emotion, she reached into her bag. Marcus barely noticed. His mind was still processing everything, the loss, the confusion, the unanswered questions, until she placed something on the table beside him. He looked down. Divorce papers. His eyes widened. "What is this?" Vanessa crossed her arms, her voice cold. "It's over, Marcus." The words hit harder than anything else that day. "Over?" he repeated. "My father just died, and I've waited long enough." She cut in sharply. Marcus stared at her, confused, hurt, shocked. "What are you talking about?" Vanessa leaned closer, lowered her voice. I didn't marry you to struggle forever. Marcus felt his chest tighten. You knew who I was. No, she snapped. I knew who I thought you could become. Silence. Heavy. Painful. And clearly, she continued, you're not that man. Marcus shook his head slowly. So this is it? You're leaving me now? Vanessa didn't hesitate. Yes. Then she glanced at the envelope in his hand, and for the first time, a small, almost hidden smile appeared. You should sign, she said calmly. It'll make things easier for both of us. Marcus looked at her, really looked at her, and in that moment, he realized something terrifying. She wasn't just leaving him. She had been waiting for this exact moment. His father's death, the envelope, everything. And suddenly, Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. What do you know? He asked quietly. Vanessa's smile deepened, just slightly. More than you think. Marcus's grip tightened around the envelope. His heart began to pound, faster, louder. What's in here? He demanded. Vanessa stepped back, calm, composed. Open it, she said. Marcus hesitated for a moment. He wasn't sure he wanted to know, but something inside him needed answers. Slowly, he tore the envelope open, pulled out the documents inside, and as his eyes scanned the first page, his entire world shattered. 25,000. His voice trembled. This has to be a mistake. But it wasn't, because printed clearly, right in front of him, was his name, Marcus Kane, sole heir to a $25 billion empire. His hands began to shake. His breathing grew uneven. No, this isn't real. But before he could process it, Vanessa spoke again. And what she said next changed everything. I told you, she said softly, her eyes gleaming. You were never just a poor man. Marcus slowly looked up at her, and for the first time, he felt something deeper than heartbreak, betrayal, because the way she looked at him now wasn't like a wife. It was like someone who had been watching, waiting, planning all along. And the most terrifying part, she already knew about the $25 billion before he even opened the envelope. Marcus's hands trembled as the paper slipped slightly between his fingers. Say that again, he whispered. Vanessa tilted her head, calm, almost amused. I said, she repeated slowly, you were never just a poor man. The room suddenly felt smaller, colder. Marcus stared at her like he was seeing a stranger. How did you know? He asked, his voice low but shaking. Vanessa didn't answer immediately. Instead, she walked toward the window, her heels clicking softly against the hospital floor. Then she turned back and smiled. Because, she said, folding her arms, I've known for years. Marcus felt something inside him crack. Years? He repeated. Yes, she replied simply. Silence fell between them, but it wasn't empty. It was heavy, suffocating, dangerous. Marcus stepped closer. His voice dropped. Explain. Vanessa exhaled slowly, as if she had been waiting for this moment her entire life. You remember when we first met? She asked. Marcus nodded slowly. At that cafe, he said. You said it was fate. Vanessa chuckled softly. Fate? She echoed. No, Marcus, that wasn't fate. She leaned in slightly. That was strategy. Marcus's stomach dropped. I knew who you were before you even said your name, she continued. I knew about Edward Kane. I knew about the empire he built in the shadows. I knew he had a son. hidden away from the world. Marcus shook his head. No, that's not possible. It is, she said firmly, and I made sure I found you. Every word hit like a punch. So, everything? Marcus asked, his voice barely holding together. Our meeting, our relationship, our marriage. Vanessa didn't flinch. Yes, the word echoed. Cold, final, brutal. Marcus staggered back slightly. You used me? Vanessa's eyes hardened. I invested in you. Marcus let out a broken laugh. Invested? Yes, she said calmly. Because I knew one day this would happen. She gestured toward the envelope. Marcus's anger finally broke through. You married me for money you weren't even sure existed. Vanessa's expression didn't change. Oh, I was sure, she said quietly. Marcus froze. What? He asked. Vanessa stepped closer again, lowered her voice. Your father didn't just disappear, Marcus. He hid you. Marcus's mind raced. What are you talking about? Vanessa's eyes locked onto his. He had enemies, powerful ones, the kind of people who don't forgive and don't forget. A chill ran down Marcus's spine. He built an empire worth billions, she continued, but he kept it hidden, protected, and when things got dangerous, she paused. He erased himself from your life to protect you. Marcus's breathing grew heavier. No, he whispered. He abandoned me. Vanessa shook her head. No, Marcus. He sacrificed everything for you. The words hit differently this time. Memories flashed through Marcus's mind. The distance, the silence, the disappearances. What kind of enemies? Marcus asked slowly. Vanessa hesitated for the first time. Then, the kind who are still watching. The room went still. Marcus's grip tightened. Still watching? He repeated. Vanessa nodded slightly. And now, they know exactly where you are. Marcus felt his pulse spike, which means, she added softly, you're not just rich now. You're a target. Silence. Heavy. Deadly. Marcus stared at her, trying to process everything at once. The inheritance, the lies, the betrayal, the danger. Why are you telling me this? He asked. Vanessa smiled again, but this time it wasn't warm. Because, she said, I'm not your enemy. Marcus's eyes narrowed. Really? He said bitterly. You just handed me divorce papers at my father's deathbed. Vanessa didn't react. That's business, she said calmly. Marcus clenched his fists. But what comes next? She continued, stepping closer again. That's survival. Marcus looked at her carefully. You expect me to trust you? Vanessa leaned in slightly. You don't have a choice. Before Marcus could respond, the door burst open. Two men rushed in, dressed in dark suits, alert, controlled, dangerous. Marcus instinctively stepped back. Who are they? He asked. Vanessa didn't turn. They're early, she muttered. Marcus's heart pounded. Vanessa? Stay behind me, she said sharply. One of the men spoke. Marcus Kane? Marcus hesitated. Yes. The man gave a slight nod. Congratulations. Marcus frowned. For what? The man's expression didn't change. For surviving this long, Marcus's confusion turned into fear. What do you want? He demanded. The second man stepped forward, his voice calm, but threatening. Everything your father left you. Marcus's blood ran cold. Vanessa exhaled slowly. I told you, she said quietly. Marcus looked at her. You knew they were coming. Vanessa met his gaze. Yes. Then why didn't you tell me sooner? Because you wouldn't have believed me, she replied. The men moved closer, blocking the exit. "This doesn't have to be difficult," one of them said. "Sign over control of the assets, and you walk away." Marcus laughed nervously. "Walk away? With what?" "Your life," the man replied. Silence. Marcus looked at Vanessa, then back at the men, and for the first time, something inside him changed. The fear started turning into something else. Clarity. "No," Marcus said. The room went still. The man frowned slightly. "No?" Marcus stood straighter, his voice stronger now. "No." Vanessa watched him carefully, something unreadable in her eyes. "You think I went through all of this," Marcus continued, "just to hand everything over to strangers?" The men exchanged a glance. "You don't understand what you're dealing with," one of them warned. Marcus took a step forward. "No," he said quietly, "you don't understand who you're dealing with." Silence. Because in that moment, Marcus wasn't the same man they walked in on. He wasn't the struggling, overlooked, broken man anymore. He was Edward Kane's son, and for the first time, he was starting to realize what that meant. Vanessa stepped beside him, not behind him, beside him. "Now you're learning," she said softly. Marcus glanced at her, still unsure, still hurt, but aware that he needed her, at least for now. "Here's what's going to happen," Marcus said calmly. The men stopped, listening. "I'm not signing anything," he continued. "And if you think threatening me in a hospital room is going to work—" He shook his head slightly. "You're underestimating me." The tension in the room thickened. The first man smirked slightly. "Then you've just made your first mistake." Marcus smiled faintly. "No," he said. "You did." Before the men could react, more footsteps echoed from the hallway, louder, faster, and suddenly the door opened again. This time, it wasn't just two men. It was a full security team, led by Richard Hale. The lawyer stepped forward, calm as ever. "I was wondering when you'd show up," he said. The two men stiffened. "You're out of your jurisdiction," one of them said coldly. Richard smiled faintly. "No," he replied. "You are." The room shifted instantly. Power, control, authority. Marcus looked at Richard, confused. "What is this?" he asked. Richard turned to him, and for the first time, there was respect in his eyes. "This," he said calmly, "is your empire, protecting its owner." Marcus felt something settle inside him. Not fear, power. The two men stepped back slowly, realizing they had lost this round. "This isn't over," one of them warned. Marcus met his gaze. "I know," he said. The men left. But the threat stayed. Silence filled the room again. Marcus exhaled slowly, then turned to Vanessa. "You knew all of this," he said. Vanessa nodded. "Yes, and you still stayed." She looked at him carefully. "For the right moment." Marcus studied her, long, hard. "You betrayed me," he said. Vanessa didn't deny it. "Yes," she said. Silence. "But I also prepared you," she added. Marcus frowned. "You think this world is kind?" She continued. "You think billion-dollar empires come without blood, lies, and enemies?" Marcus didn't respond. "Your father understood that," she said softly. "And now you have to." Marcus looked down at the papers in his hand. The inheritance, the divorce, everything. Then slowly, he tore the divorce papers in half. Vanessa's eyes widened slightly. "We're not done," Marcus said. She tilted her head. "Meaning?" Marcus looked at her, his voice calm controlled, different. You don't get to walk away that easily. Vanessa smiled slowly. Good, she said, because in that moment, both of them understood something. This was no longer a broken marriage. This was a game of power, and neither of them intended to lose. Marcus walked toward the window, looking out at the city. Everything had changed. His past, his present, his future. And as the sun slowly began to rise, Marcus Kane made a silent decision. He would take everything his father left him. He would face every enemy, and he would become something no one expected. Not the man people overlooked, but the man they feared. Because sometimes the greatest power comes from the man the world thought was nothing. If this story moved you, let us know in the comments.